to welcoming him and all other global leaders.
Kate?
Thank you. I was just about to ask, did he say yes when you spoke to him on the phone, but it sounds like he did. When it comes to Russia and Ukraine, it seems to have escalated in the last 24 hours. Do you have a reaction to the Russians revising their nuclear doctrine and the US allowing Ukraine to use long-range weapons?
Well, the developments that have been unfolding just in the past few hours and a few days are concerning. They're concerning all round, and the issue of utilization of nuclear, it's something that must be seen as calamitous for all of us in the world, and also the increased threat of utilizing long-range missiles and so forth. So it just means that this conflict is escalating to a very dangerous level, and it therefore requires cool heads, because we've been calling for the settlement of that conflict through negotiations, and we think negotiation is the only way out to resolve this conflict. And I've said to both presidents, both President Putin and Zelensky, that all conflicts end in either winning, defeat, or negotiation, and we've got to choose the best way out. And I've always said that the best way out is to negotiate, where sit around the table and find a solution that will accommodate the interests and the concerns that all parties have. And we as South Africa still hope and wish and want to work for the attainment of peace in that area, and also negotiations.
Amy?
Thank you. Kemi Mshikoya with the Africa Bazaar magazine, as well as the White House correspondent. Congratulations on the G20 presidency. I know it's a lot of work. It's a huge opportunity for South Africa as well as for the African continent. So could you talk about how you plan to bring in the South African diaspora as well as the African diaspora to support what you're doing, and how you plan to use the platform with the African Continental Free Trade Agreement to make sure that African voices are heard on the global trade platform?
Our approach to the G20 summit is underpinned by inclusivity. We want to include all voices, all views, and all structures as much as we possibly can, and formations. So utilizing or getting or bringing in, say, the South African diaspora will be a wonderful thing that we can do, and we will be inviting them to come and play a role and to contribute. Africa is our home, and we are going to seek to make this G20 an Africa-focused G20, as well as a Global South-focused G20, just as Brazil did. But in our case, it will be our own home, the African continent. We've already made that clear publicly, that is what we want the G20 to focus on the needs and the challenges that the African continent faces, but also, as put very, very clearly by President Xi Jinping, the opportunities, because where there are challenges, we must also look on the flip side and say, what are the opportunities? So the Africa Continental Free Trade Area presents a huge opportunity for African economies, and utilizing the G20 platform, we will want all of us on the continent to see how best we can broaden our own participation as countries in the African Continental Free Trade Area, and utilize the opportunity that is being brought about by these many countries that control up to 80% of the GDP of the world when it comes to trade, when it comes to economic growth. So we will want that, and the African diaspora has a role to play, and we will be inviting to them So we're going to also create a platform in which people can make their inputs, both in South Africa, in SADC, our own region, Southern African Community Development Area, as well as the whole entire continent of Africa. So for us, this is a very exciting opportunity. We were not elected, it was just by dint of, the one following the other, but we want to utilize it to good effect, to work with others and to deepen cooperation in the world and focus on the key issues that the world needs to focus on. And in many ways, G20 creates a platform also of having an impact on the direction the world is taking in certain areas. So that brings that opportunity to us, and we want to utilize it.
Quick follow-up. You met with President Biden briefly. Could you give us any updates or share that conversation that you had with President Biden today?
It was on the trot as we were moving one place to another. President Biden and I spent a considerable amount of time in a bilateral 2 years ago in the White House, and so we've been able to renew some of those things that we discussed. But the one area that we participated jointly in today was on the issue of workers' rights with President Lula, Da Silva, myself, and President Biden, and we ended up with a clear statement on promotion of workers' rights. And so that, to me, just seals a very good relationship, even as he goes into retirement from being president. So that is a very positive development.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, thank you very much. We've come to the end of this engagement.